Hi, everyone. I'm Liz Nord, and I'm the Director of Content at Sundance Collab, which is Sundance Institute's online filmmaking community and learning platform for creators from around the world. We can be found at collab.sundance.org, and I will tell you a little bit more about some of our upcoming programs at the end of this session. Meanwhile, I'm so thrilled to welcome you all to this One Story Up filmmaker fireside chat, not the easiest thing to say, presented in partnership with the new streaming service Topic and Sundance Collab. This event is the third in a series of conversations based on the Topic original series hosted by Academy Award and Emmy winning director Roger Ross Williams. As some of you may have heard, Roger is working on his first scripted feature, Cassandro, so unfortunately he couldn't be here in person today, but he did record a brief message to introduce the series and the incredibly talented filmmakers that we have with us this evening. So without further delay, let's get started.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Roger Ross Williams. Welcome to our third One Story Up Filmmaker Fireside Chat produced by Topic. This event is based on my Topic original series, One Story Up, that showcases short films from emerging talent from around the globe each and every month. As a Black, gay, indie filmmaker who has always felt like an outsider in the industry, it is important to me to open doors for young, up-and-coming talent. Each event highlights two remarkably talented filmmakers featured in the series in conversation with each other. They'll chat about their experiences, insights on the craft, and the lessons they've learned along the way. Afterwards, you'll get a chance to ask them questions in an audience Q&A. Tonight, you'll be joined by Ameer Kazmi and Adewale Olukayode. Ameer's short film Fairgrounds was featured in episode 4 of One Story Up and is a poetic film that explores a father's influence on masculinity using urban imagery and experimental visual and audio layering. We got to see Adewale's home in episode 9. It's a story of two immigrant brothers from Nigeria pitted against each other when one pursues the American dream and the other gets fed up with the cycle of oppression that defines it. I'm really excited to hear the conversation between these two magnificent filmmakers. Both their films call into question the ideas or themes that are on the pulse of our changing world. Ameer uses multiple formats to call into question the meaning of masculinity and the expectations that come along with it. Adewale's short explores the struggle of the ever elusive American dream. I'm excited to find the overlap between their films and the experiences of these two filmmakers. Please join me in welcoming Ameer Kazmi and Adewale Olukayode.
Hi, everybody. Sorry, I think my mic was muted for a second. Oh, might be missing Adewale. One sec. We are having some technical difficulties, it seems. We're waiting for Adewale to hop back in. I don't know if someone wants to come up and join me while we figure this out, just so I'm not talking to thin air. It's kind of hard not having a stage or anyone in front of you. Let's see what everyone's doing. Got the heads up that it's just a couple of seconds before you can hop on. No. Hey,
Hi.
Liz.
Well, I don't know that I'm as talented as Adewale, but we'll chat in the meantime. I
Yeah,
definitely have questions about your amazing film. So
thank you.
why don't we start? And then when Adewale is able to pop on, he'll just jump in.
Yeah, sure thing.
So we're going to assume that everyone has seen the film because everyone who signed up here got links.
Yes.
Before any specific questions, is there anything you just think folks should know?
I think folks should know that I also needed to rewatch this before coming into this talk. It's been a while since I've made this film. Actually, I feel like Adewale is a more recent project of his, so I'm a little more removed from my film in a unique way than he is, and I'm excited to pick his brain for that reason. But I was also pretty young when I made it. I think I was like 21 for context. It was my thesis film for graduating from my undergrad at SVA in Manhattan. So it was a bit of a tumultuous time making, but it was a genuinely earnest process that I'm to this day still trying to figure out. So I'm interested to talk about it and see if anything that Adewale has to say, brings something new up.
Yeah, it sounds like he's about to pop on, but why don't you tell us, in rewatching it now, did you have sort of any new reflections about the film?
New reflections. I think my reflections have started as very general understandings of what I pieced together immediately after making it, and those umbrellas have been, spreading down. I've been like spider webbing those ideas and getting more specific about particular moments. But I am kind of in a place where I actually feel the most lost with my understanding of my own work, having come this far from it. I don't know if it's just a matter of growing or like how life has changed in between then and now, but it's like I'm watching a completely different person's work, which is interesting.
Very interesting. And speaking of interesting, it looks like we are joined by Adewale. So
I'm sorry, I had
right?
I had like last minute technical difficulties, but like I heard everything you said though.
Cool.
Awesome.
Yeah, I heard everything you said.
I'll pop off and let you two take it from here.
Okay,
Beautiful. Thanks, Liz.
Also, before we start,
yes,
you and I are both from Queens.
You from Queens too? I thought you were from Brooklyn.
I am from Brooklyn. I grew up in Brooklyn, but
Okay.
my family moved when we got a little bit of money, and we moved to like the same parts of the Nartra stop as you. So like when you told Roger that, I was like, I know that experience. I know
That's
that
funny.
experience.
That's really funny.
Yeah.
I don't know if they did that on purpose or not, but icebreaker, I definitely watched your episode. I was like doing my research, reading your bio. I was like, all right, what can I like figure out in between? But yeah, I remember you mentioned like East New York, and that's my mom, when I was growing up, she was a teacher in East New York too. I was like hopped around. She used to teach at, I don't even know if it's called that anymore, but Franklin K Lane, like right off the J train.
I know that. That's my local high school. That's where all the bad kids go.
Yeah. I used to sit in the back of the classroom as like a young kid and like watch her teach, because there was like no one to take care of me. So I'm like watching my mom teach all these kids in East New York.
That's
really
cool.
Funny.
That's a cool experience, man. Cool.
But it's good to know.
So the thing I take away from your film, right? Like truly, like I love this film, and like you have a lot of references, and I don't know if you don't know, I don't know if you know your references, because
probably not, to be honest.
The blue light in the car, light in the car. I looked at Kevin James Marshall's work. Are you familiar with him?
Yeah.
Yeah, the blue light work, and seeing him take portraits in that, and I was like, this person knows like what they're doing.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think I would have really. I don't think I was intentionally like referencing anything in particular because of how the film was made, but I think because of the time and place I was in, I was consuming a lot of like Kerry James Marshall, Khalil Joseph. Like, there's a lot of like different types of artwork I was just consuming at once, and I feel like it just popped out while I was making it.
Beautiful, and also like the thing that like struck me was like you like reversing in front of the store. And like, oh, this is like someone who like knows what they're doing, and it's like easily can like manipulate time, and also like to allude something like very specific. For me, what I got from your film was like a yearning for youth. I'm not too sure if that's what you intended. Can you please speak on that?
Yeah, for sure. I kind of actually felt similarly about your film, and I find it like really unique that they paired us. And I don't know if this was intentional, but I feel like we share a lot of similarities, but we handled them in really different ways. Because I think, speaking to the youth factor now, understanding and looking back at my film, I think I was really using this as like a bookmark or like a way to close a chapter in my own life. You know, getting to the age of 21, like you grew up in New York too. You know what I'm saying? Getting to the age of 21 and like everything as a teenager coming from like, or just like a kid coming from a relatively like modest upbringing. That it seems monumental. Those like, it might even just be like a decade, but everything leading up to like 18 or 21, these milestones is so huge. I feel like I was just like starting life, and I feel like that just kind of packed away all that like crap that I was like holding on to or bringing with me, and everything from there felt new. So I think that's where that ode to youth kind of came through. I was just saying bye, you know, to what was going on. But I feel like the same thing happened in your, I mean, just the work ethic of your characters in the super. I felt like I knew the supermarket and those characters, like having to go through med school and like hopping into to these jobs and trying to figure things out. It was almost like the other side of that coin where it's like, okay, now look at what I'm facing. Where do I go from here? You know?
I mean, you know, the supermarket is in Queens.
Really?
It's in Queens. Like the people there are like people who I know from like normal living in like New York City. Basically what I did was like I have like basically created two arguments, right? Two arguments. One is the argument for like the American dream, and one is the like I don't really want to be here argument. The thing that like I can see past this dream. This dream is actually not a dream at all. In fact, it's a nightmare. And you put those two with like a crucible as their brothers, right? So when you put them as brothers, you would now have a conversation, especially like if they're attached to each other, and you place them in a foreign land, which is like I can see the main character. I have the similar experience as the main character. All my family members who came here have the experience as the older brother, Tunde. But that's basically where I those characters came from, and just like this movie came from. So like for you, like what collaboration is like a really big thing for you, and I know that like most of the people who you have in this film are like people know who you could call on right now, who like you could have a conversation, cold call them right now and have a conversation with them.
I mean, quite, you got it exactly. Like, I mean, that's gang, you know, like these are still some of my these are still my closest friends. You know, everyone that was seen in it, I mean, give or take a little bit of like distance and traveling and like having to like move around and stuff, like I'm still in touch with every single person on there, and even a lot of the people that helped me make it. I mean, in the similar way, I feel like you were just talking to your character. I don't know if you thoroughly cast it. Like I didn't even cast those written or scripted scenes that I had in there. It was just like, these are the people I want to share moments with, and these are the people in the conversations who inspire those moments that I was thinking of. Like, these are the people I were chilling with when I was writing this stuff. Like, it was me commuting home. Like, I was working 2 jobs through a large part of college, freelancing, still going to school full time. So I was riding the E-train all the way back to the Ave at like 2-3 in the morning. The train's empty. So all these moments that I'm conceiving on that train are coming directly off of whatever I just discussed with a lot of the people you saw in there. And a lot of them also made the work that you heard. Like, I think I said this a little bit in my episode, but my homie Nate that got into the drying machine in the laundromat also was the writer who narrated that was his poem that you know vioed the film. So a lot of friends' music in there too that were actually featured in the film. Did you have
the trap music in the car? That's dope.
The homie Kane, he came through. He never released any of that, so I was like, all right, I need to take this and do something. Like, this is hard.
Man,
you know?
It's funny with the collaborators, you believe in them more than they believe in themselves. So like, you just have to like, all right, cool, I want to feature your work, and that's like what I did for this film as well too.
Did you have a similar process where you just kind of tapped into like, you know, your community and just pulled it all together?
Yes and no, because like the main character Femi, I was like looking for him for a really long time, right? Looking for really long. It was kind of annoying like how long I was looking for him. Like
Yeah.
I was like, how come I can't find anyone? I was like, just like trying to cold call like every cousin I know. Like, it was good. Let me like test them out for like this acting role. And then I checked my DMs like a long time ago. There was like this Nigerian American actor who hit me up like, hey, I want to work with you. And I was like, And I like hit him up. I basically looked him up on email, like on Facebook, and I seen that he was actually still in acting. This is like way before he started like getting roles and stuff like that. Now it's like I seen him. I said, okay, let me test him out. So we met and we like became a bond. And then I see he like had the same similarities as me, like like college educated, can like really into fashion and stuff like that. And like if you're a Nigerian American and like we're both Nigerian American, we both like seeing like the outside world, and like we can look at our world and like come outside of it as well too. And with the older brother, I walked past a mosque. I walked past a mosque in Brooklyn, and like a Nigerian mosque. There's a Nigerian American Muslim Incorporated. It's like the name is Namek, and I was walking past it, and I just seen like people just like hanging out, and I seen like this. I just walked inside, and I just seen like this person just like playing like soccer, and I was like, he's playing soccer indoors and just like playing with little kids.
in
and
the
I was
mosque.
like, yeah, and the kids are like he's like a big brother to the little kids. So I was like, okay, let me see what he does. And then like he was doing his, like, when I talked to him, I got a little bit out of him. He was like doing his own YouTube skits. I was like, oh wow, this kid is very like.
Oh no, my G, you might have froze a little bit. Huh. I wonder if Adewale is still here. You know, this internet in Brooklyn don't really hit the same way it can be in other places. Well, damn. Well, I hope everyone's enjoying the conversation so far. Y'all are seeing us really meet and talk for the first time, truth be told. Hey, Liz is back. What happened?
We're actually the same person. We just kind of like, we do this presto changeo thing.
That's funny.
Yeah. Okay, so I have another question that we didn't get to earlier while we're waiting for Adewale. So your film has such a non-traditional structure, and you mentioned earlier the scripted scenes. So I'm really curious about your process. Like, how much was scripted? How much was impromptu? How much was documentary? How'd you craft it?
That is a lovely question. This was my first genuine, I think, approach and understanding of my own process and really trying to develop something unique for myself. This film is a little bit of like a tantrum, to be quite honest. Like, I was just at the time I had did that like commercial filmmaking competition for like students in the US with like, it was like Coca-Cola and Regal, and like that was like a very formal process. I was mostly working in commercials back then and working on crews, and my writing classes were just kind of directing me towards more traditional scripts. And it was just what I was studying, and the amalgamation of actually working in the industry and having this structure that really put a bad taste in my mouth, especially like being in a private institution, like the university that I was at, and just wanting to get out there, join the industry, and really start making my own waves. I think it also came from a pretty unique influence of like a lot of musicians that I work with, or DJs, painters, designers, illustrators, like that kind of stuff, like being able to understand their process, their structure, and incorporate my understandings of different mediums and bringing that to film. Not in a direct way, but I was screen printing a lot at the time. I was like, okay, layering in the film, the media, the audio, and I was just trying to draw parallels. So it was like one big improvisation, but it was predominantly a tantrum where I like ended up traveling with my friends to Europe because we just needed to get out. None of us really came from means for the most part. So for a lot of us, it was our first trip in that way. Whoever you saw on the High 8 tapes, I was like, cool, I'm going to document this trip. And I'm really grateful that my thesis advisor was supportive of that. He was also an experimental filmmaker. He's like, cool, we need to write something that the school can be okay with being your thesis, but as far as I'm concerned, this is cool. And I just had a notebook of ideas, and none of them really correlated, but I was like, cool, here's this montage-y kind of script. I'm going to find a way. And I kind of gave, some general action descriptions, submitted. I was like, cool, this will be my anthological short. So I ended up having to shoot all that height, and I came back to the US after traveling Paris, Berlin for the first time, and then shooting that and producing it and stitching it all together. So it was kind of like, it was shot over the course of about 6 months, because I was like filming things as we came. Also funding, it's not like we had money to do so. Like, school provides you with so much support, but getting things together and paying for it and learning how to produce as a kid. No one ever tells you about the business side of this stuff. So that's a whole other conversation. I know we're getting very creative and deep, but the business is a whole other aspect.
That's real. And it's realistic that, people understand they have to sort of know that, even the most creative filmmakers, it's still a business. But I love that you said that about the different, media that you were working with, because now, it makes so much sense. Like, the film has this musical quality, a lyrical quality, a painterly quality, and you really were like conscious of all that, which is really special. And how much of it was, when you talk about like stitching it together in post, like how much of that came together? Did you just have all these pieces that you had put together, like that you had collected, and then you stitch it together in post? Or did you really know when you went into post, like, this is going to go here, and this is going to go here, and this is going to go here?
I would not give myself that much credit. I just basically had hours and hours of tape. We had shot these films. I had a couple scans back from the lab of some 16 that we shot. That was like a scene I curated, but we really just like blocked it all out. It was almost like block scheduling a shoot, and then it all comes together. So we blocked it all, and me and my editor Godfred, who also happens to be one of my closest friends, also from Queens, we met in high school. We had been working together for years already, and we kind of had a cipher with it. Like, we brought different people into it. He would spend a week with it, I spent a week with it, and we would go back and forth. And even some of my friends who created some of the music that we pulled from or like worked in that sphere are the ones that ended up, like our friend Ken ended up doing the sound design and the mix on it. So it was a lot of like unspoken input. There was like an unspoken language there already between us. So it became one big cipher. Hey, he's back.
Sweet. I got my own Wi-Fi system. I have my roommate using their Wi-Fi. So it's like the funniest thing.
But yeah, welcome back. I don't know if you heard what we were just talking about.
I heard you talking about like your formats. High 8. What else?
Yep. High 8, 16, and we shot on our school's red also.
That's what's up, man. That's what's up.
So there's a lot going on there.
You used the 4:3 aspect ratio.
I did for the most part, but even that we like kind of broke away from a little bit towards the end when we were like layering footage just to get funky. But yeah, I feel like I'm like stealing the stage because you got all
You're
these.
good,
so I'm gonna start putting you in the hot seat because I got some questions for you.
Put me in the hot seat.
I was extremely fond of the imagery in your film. Okay. I also, there was this point where you talked about blocking and how you talked about the plantain scene basically in the basement and the management of the supermarket. What's your relationship with your DP like? Because I saw you brought up the questions of like references, or you picked up on a lot of it. And I feel like you actually had extremely intentional references for every single frame.
Of
the film. So I'm curious to know where you were pulling from.
So the plantain scene. I stood up all night the night before to figure out how we was gonna block it, because there was like too many things happening. Usually when a scene too many things is happening, it's like the hardest thing, because it's like, how do you like capture a lot but capture the information that you need out of it? And the DP asked me, he says, hey, what is the scene about? He basically asked me what the scene is about. I'm like, no matter what the confusion is with everything going on, it's about them two. He was like, okay, cool, let's capture that. So how will we do that? And he's like, all right, cool, have them two sit down. I'm like, all right. Then he was like, move the camera. I was like, okay, let's move the camera this way. Then we like figure out a bunch of like different like ways to move the camera, but like the one that we got was like the one that we got was basically like one where like the actors led me to it. Usually this movie is like about a bunch of times we've just been the actors leading me to things because like what I tried to do was like get them into the process of being the actors, right? Of being the characters. So if they're the characters, what I need to do is basically follow them and just like see how they look at things. Because if they can look at whatever they look at is what we look at. Like for instance, like the scene where he's like on the phone. He's on the phone.
Like outside the supermarket?
Yeah, outside the supermarket. We didn't have a we didn't know where we were gonna shoot that. We didn't actually shoot. We set up at another location, and then I just said this is not feeling right, and the DP was like, okay, let's everyone cut, and then everyone is like, it's like, what are you thinking? Where do you want to put this? And then we seen like the actor who was playing Tunde, like outside the supermarket, sitting in that exact same location. And I was like, I want that right there, where he's standing. So he kind of led me into like that like location, and then we just like put two and two together, because like truly, when the universe is talking to you on set, you kind of want to listen to every single thing. And that's usually coming from like your subjects.
Yeah, that's really amazing that you said that, because I feel like that's the largest understanding that I took away from even my super obscure like amalgamation of images, like to see that process. It takes, people think that directing is putting things in place or like curating it or imagining how something's going to come out, but I feel like it's just trying to be as like understanding and empathetic of any circumstance or scenario that you're putting yourself or anyone else in. And I think that's a really intentional way of doing it. I feel like I accidentally stumbled upon it, but the fact that you were noticing that real time is really important. And it's just like a great sense. It's a hard sensibility to have also. I feel like it's.
Yeah, because like once again, as a director, everyone is always coming to you for answers, and sometimes you just have to like pose the question out there to like the world and like to your collaborators, and just like try to get something from them, because truly it's a collaborative experience to where like everyone has a input in every small thing, and what you want to do is like be that filter of like, I'll take that, but I won't take this. I'll take that, but I won't. I want to tune that expressions you have. I want to do it a little bit. They're giving you things. You kind of want to listen to every single thing, because you don't know when you're gonna get it again.
And I think this is a really important lesson, I think, that we agree on for whoever's sitting in this room, is like directing is trusting. You know, you're not on set to do the work. You know, like I feel like all the work's happening before and after personally. And just being able to like give space as opposed to take space as a director will 9 times out of 10 really make the work what it needs to be. As long as you're understanding and communicating with the people around you, that does go such a long way. I really am trying to like, I want to pick your brain about narrative a little bit more, because I think you're a writer also, right? Yeah, I feel like I've always wanted to get more into like the more traditional like narrative sphere, because I do like, just from the work that I do day to day, I have a better understanding of it. But I for some reason I really struggle to implement that into my own work. Not like I'm trying to be forceful with it, but it's always fun to speak to
you
writers
have
and
it.
stuff.
You have it, man. Because it's like the thing that like I come across when I'm writing is like I write like maybe like 60% of the dialogue, 40% is them, right? And for you, from what I watch, you let the characters be them. You let your subjects be themselves, and like half the time is like that's the battle. It's like, hey, how would you say this? How would you do this? How would you do this? And like sometimes people come into a piece as an actor, and you just want to be like, no, don't come into it as an actor. Like this, don't act. This like say this. How do you feel in this situation, right? How do you feel in this situation? And then if they can like replicate that situation, then hey, like that's the beautiful thing. Like I was thinking that like when I was like directing my actors, I was like, hey, wait for a train. Like I told him to wait. I told him that he said, how do you want me to do this? I'm like, wait, you're waiting for a train. And that was like a nugget for him, because like the actor and I waited for a train for maybe 40 minutes while we were in the rehearsal process. And I saw how he was in that moment. So like I used that nugget of like a real life thing, and use that while we were shooting, and it helped him because he knew exactly. Oh yeah, I know exactly how that feels, and that was like it went from like 10 minutes of trying to get him to do it to like me giving him like waiting for a train to like 2 seconds. He's like, I got it. I know what to do.
Boom, nailed it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, once you put that out there, I mean, it really is. I don't know if it's there's almost a preference to work with non-actors for that reason. I mean, that comes with its own fair share of difficulties.
Absolutely.
Who don't understand?
It's hard as hell. You kind of have to like build your set around non-actors.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, there's a benefit to both, but it's like finding that in between space. That's why, like, if you can even find those relationships, that's what there is one role I specifically casted from. She was in the lady in the blue velvet suit in front of the deli with her head hanging back.
I see that. That was dope.
I did cast her, and it was interesting because she served as like a mother figure in that entire scenario to everyone that was around. Like that's the corner, the deli that took place in front of is the deli that I grew up with on my block. Like I was, I'm not gonna rat them out on nothing, but you know, we was there as like kids.
Don't rat them because usually how we get locations. That's New York filmmakers, right? Yeah. It's like you have the gift of gab, right? You know what locations you can get. But you know that like you can only get to the manager and you can't get to the owner of it. So like what you'll do is just like make a deal with the manager because the manager's like, all right, cool. I know you. You're not gonna do a bad job. And just like,
I mean, those kids they've known me since I was like 12, 13, walking into that store buying all sorts of stuff. So you know, it was a good time to like be on. But I feel like speaking to circumstance, even with her like being more of a mother figure, she was older than anyone else in the cast. She was trained more formally than anyone I was working with. They were all my peers. They all felt a different kind of energy being there. But even just like picking that location, and this is just my block, being my block, like while we were actually shooting that scene, there's like a Chinese food restaurant in the back, and there was like a whole lot of drama happening on the block as it usually does. But this poor woman, and it was cold out too, I'm not gonna hold you, and she was like struggling. She ends up in the restaurant for a minute. We were like rehearsing, going for takes in between, and in between she straight up in frame just like came diving through the glass front of the Chinese food restaurant. Whoa. And was just like on the sidewalk with no shoes, no socks. And I was just like, hey, but then the energy shifted entirely. You know what I'm saying? Like even her presence, and it really shaped like the dude that was on the phone in front of her, like in the foreground. No one was even paying attention to us because, you know, you step out on the block with the camera and a small crew, like you become very noticeable, but immediately became that space again. And as soon as that space became the world that everyone was familiar with, that energy really all came together. So I don't know. I feel like I'm on the fence of like chalking some stuff up to be happenstance. You know what I'm saying? But it's like an informed decision of where you're going to be at and who's there. It's just like taking your players and putting them in place, you know?
Yeah. And you kind of have to be like, you got like a coach in the situation where like, you just like you put your players in, then like everything that happens, you just kind of like take whatever you can get. You go in with 100% what you get, but you probably only get like 30-40% of it, and just be happy with the rest of everything else.
Yeah. I'm curious to know. Oh yeah, go ahead. You got it.
Question for you though, narrative. What are you like working on now? What is your process with narrative?
It's funny because I did start working on my next project, and it came through like this whole process too with Roger and the show and figuring things out. It was like I'm not obsessed, but like my bread and butter has been like I work as like a commercial PM, and I AD from time to time. I produce and do all this kind of stuff, and it just consumes you. You know, living in the city's hard, trying to do stuff. So going through this whole process with Roger and all these other filmmakers has been nice to kind of like light that fire under me, and they really got me on my next project. But it started off. It's like this narrative short and has been like growing. And I think through just talking about it so much, I discovered it's like a much larger thing. And I'm basing a narrative around the passing of my grandfather. He passed in 2020, not COVID related. It was just, you know, his time.
Rest in peace.
Thank you. He went very peacefully. But he was actually this correlates to you too, because I feel like you talked a little bit about like an in-between space or feeling in between. As a character, like not American enough or not Nigerian enough or this, that, the other. I'm mixed. I'm Pakistani and I'm Hungarian, you know, so my entire life I was like kind of torn between two different places. I was raised by my Hungarian mom while my dad was, you know, like we it was just like this constant hop back and forth. And I've always felt a little detached from that side of the family. So I feel really grounded in my father's side of the family story right now. Because when I lost my grandfather, I lost like a little bit of a bridge, you know? So it's me shaping a story out of my family's archives right now. And even just like locations like around my old neighborhood in Flushing, and like, you know, how they moved, how they worked, you know, the pharmacies that they worked in, and this, that, the other. So that narrative exists in there. And I'm trying to take this hybrid of what I was doing with Fairgrounds and just make it a little bit more linear, but still understand the tools and the layers that I have to work with. So, but that's the thing, like writing that kind of work has been super unique because you can't necessarily put that in a more traditional format or structure on paper. You can, or at least I'm struggling to, which is why I was trying to like pick your brain.
How would you do it then? Like, because it's like, I feel like with the style that you have and with the story that you're talking about, I don't expect it like to be 100% linear. I expect it to be like basically like along the lines of a narrative, and like have those moments where like you're talking about like the emotion of your like your grandfather and what he had to go through. Because I'm saying, will that be shown in real time, or will that be like something you do with like the style that you have?
Yeah, I think it would be more so in the sense like it would be stylistically more so transcending time, just to like convey that, because I feel like a lot of the power that he had also has to do with the representation of generations in my family and like what each one uniquely went through. You know, each one had a different strife. Like my generation was the first born and raised in New York. You know, everyone else had to come over, and they've all had their own struggles on both sides of my family. You know, I don't know that I'm also learning that with the style that I have, like it could still have a linear, like it's all there. Like if you look at even the most experimental of work, you can understand it as 3 acts. It just really depends on where it's at. But yeah, I'm curious before we like, I feel like the audience has some questions, but I'm curious to know a little bit about what you're working on first, or like where you're taking some of this work. Because I understand this short home was like a recent project for you. So I'm curious to know where you're going.
Well, it was recent in terms of like 3 years ago. 3 years.
Oh, really? All right,
yeah,
cool.
It's 3 years ago. Yeah, 3 years ago. I'm happy with the success the film has gotten, but like I felt like my voice has changed over the last 3 years, and that's the beauty of it, because it's like your voice is forever changing, and it's like your voice is the same every single year. Truly, why is like, as a filmmaker, I want to continuously grow and like sometimes like change forms, change like just to see like what sticks. My next project, I'm dealing with a situation now. So like I asked this question to like many of my friends, like, can a Black person be a gentrifier? And everyone always has a different answer to that question. And like it was like, no Black person can be a gentrifier. Some Black people are like, yeah, I could definitely be a gentrifier. And I want to like just like form that in a narrative short, and like seeing that like if Black people, if a Black person can be a gentrifier or can be a gentrifier, I'm gonna present a character who like owns a coffee shop in the neighborhood, and the coffee shop is meant for the Black folks in the neighborhood. However, it just becomes like a hipster coffee shop, and it just grows. And then everyone in his building's rent goes up, and that's like it's a tale that I'm still kind of dealing with, like working with now.
Word. Yeah, I definitely want to hear more about this. I feel like this is just the beginning of this conversation, because I was telling everyone while you were, dealing with your technical difficulties, like this is our first time actually talking. So I
know exactly, but I know you though, because like I was having a hard time finding you on Instagram, and then when I saw your name of like Arizona and
Honey Buns, yeah.
I'm like, I get along with this guy already.
Yeah, I'm holding on to that one for sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, we got a link after this. I do think that we should move on to some of these questions coming in.
I do.
Do you want to go ahead and pick the first one? Because I'm kind of bad at it.
How did each of you meet Roger Ross Williams, and get involved in One Story Up? You go first on that one.
It was about like, I think we were both just talking about how both of our films were made a couple of years out. Like when Fairgrounds first came out, it did a festival run right after I came out of school. So 2018, it screened at San Francisco Film Festival, and then I went to New Orleans that fall. And it did pretty well. It got some accolades and got some good responses. And I think when Roger was just doing research for One Story Up and his thing, he just tapped in with a bunch of programmers at film festivals. And the woman, I don't know which film festival it came through. A lot of it came through this one programmer in particular. So I think it may have been just a recommendation through her. It's still kind of a mystery, but the producer Aisha just kind of reached out to me out of the blue, and it was like around COVID, and I'm just like I was like locked in the crib. I completely forgotten about my film entirely. I was like already like moving on to stuff. So I got this call, and I was like, all right, cool, let's get it. And then me and when we did these interviews and recorded for the shows, when I first chopped it up with Roger.
That's sweet. Similar experience. I don't know which film festival, because I was at the start of my festival run, and I just got a hit up at the like the start of it, and from the same Aisha, and I don't know where they found us. I just know that like they found us, and truly, when I was like watching all of the films that on the story, I'm like, this is really good. This is a really good, like, I don't mind being in the like this class of like filmmakers that he chose.
Nah, low key, it's elite. Like the short films that they found, and like how unique they each are, but the craft and the artistry is kind of phenomenal in everything. I was really hyped to see or like be amongst those ranks, you know. But I think long story short is like sometimes life just goes like that. Like some opportunities just as long as you put it out into the world, you know what I'm saying? As long as it's out there, it just somehow comes back to you.
Yeah, we are in a privileged position, and I'm like super grateful of it. Every day, every day I wake up and I'm like, I'm just like, I'm in a privileged position to like be able to write every day as a filmmaker, or just like put my work on page and just like display my work for everyone. And I'm like very appreciative of it. And I'm like, whenever like someone says, I like your work, or like, what do you have next? I just like, thanks. Cause I remember just being a nobody, and just like people just like, you're a filmmaker. It's like being a filmmaker is like the new you're a rapper.
This is honestly my first experience like this too, so I feel a lot of the same, and I'm just trying to traverse the space for the first time. But I think this is a great bridge to the next question, which is what advice would you give other filmmakers who are just starting out? I'm gonna keep it a buck where I feel like we're also just starting out. So
exactly. But I would say though, for both of us, you have a lot of collaborators around you. You just don't know that they're collaborators. Like truly, if you find someone with a talent, just like not necessarily just like use them for their talent, just like be friends with them, because like that'll, whatever they're working on, whatever they're doing will like seep into your blood, seep into your like your psyche, and then like you'll start to like see that like, oh, I got this from this experience I had with this person. Being around people who are creating, being around people who are super talented, can basically lead to your voice, can help you with your voice, because you'll know what you like and what you don't like from just like the people you're around.
Absolutely. I 100% agree. I think my piece of advice would be like, be very conscious of who it is that you the company that you keep, who's around you, the spaces that you traverse. I'm typically a pretty guarded person, and I think when I stop being guarded or ashamed of my position of where I am, because like when you're starting from the bottom too, it's hard doing that kind of work, knowing or understanding your potential. But as soon as you start saying yes and accepting the space that you're in, whether it means you're strapping down a truck on a job, or like you haven't even entered like the film industry yet and you're just trying to go into it, I think being as open and understanding of your condition and where you're at in life is that level of openness is, people feed off of that. They could feel all that. And I think if you can maintain it, that will just open the doors for you, and people will want to hear you, you know.
Absolutely. Also, like, this is a small thing before we go to the next question. Journal a lot. The experiences you have are very specific to you, and what you would like to do is, like, if you would like to direct a narrative film, you will need to know where that comes from. So like when you're talking to your actors, you kind of need to get them into the mode of a particular experience or a particular emotion. So what you'll do is just like cite from yourself, and then see how they can relate to that. If it comes from a real place from yourself, it comes from a real place on screen.
Yeah, I mean, even piggybacking off of that, like it's the journaling thing. It's like, don't try to work all the time. Like you were here on the certain, like working ain't it. I'm doing it right now, and I can barely get to like my own work. You know, like these hours and the industries, and I mean, it's tough. Like you're working 12 to 16-hour days, 5 days a week sometimes. You know what I'm saying? Like it bears down on you. So don't think about working all the time. And people want to get there, but sometimes you just got to go be you, and that'll fulfill and lead you to the next step, you know.
Absolutely. Question 3: what would you recommend for writing and producing narrative? How do you keep consistent when working on something? Having trouble with this?
Girl, same. I don't really consistency is difficult across the board, I think, for everyone. I feel like this is something more in your realm though, with the writing and producing narrative.
Well, for me, so I've been keeping a ritual every single day, every single weekday. So I get up in the morning at 8 o'clock. I'm very lazy getting out of bed. I go to the gym. I run for an hour in the gym, right? But like the thing, running for an hour, I just need to complete something for that day, right? I just need to complete a workout for that day, right? And not necessarily what the strain is like. I don't really care about the strain, but like truly, I just need to finish something for that day. So then when I come home and I start writing, I already completed something. I don't necessarily have to be like super attached to what I'm writing right now. It allows me just to write and not be like, oh, I have to do 5 pages today, or I have to do 10 pages today. What I'll do is just like, nah, I already finished. I already completed something earlier. I will just continue just to write whatever I need, whatever comes to my head. If it's 2 pages that day, I'm fine. Because if it's 3 pages that day, I'm fine. But it just has to be like, just write one word.
Yeah.
If I could write one word after, I'm fine. But it's just about like tricking yourself to complete things. And that's like,
I mean, for me, it's the same. Like it's, I mean, shamefully, it's not working out so much as it used to be. But it's like, even if I get up and like I wash the dishes, or like I clean a room in my crib too, or even the fact that like I did my room up, put on a nice fit, and stepped out the door to go get some coffee. You know what I'm saying? I'm creating momentum for myself. It's really hard to just roll out of bed and just like lug your way around to stuff. But even like I don't know if this is like even more so a creative question than like a practical one, but what I find that helps for me is like drawing or having some sort of tangible task. It's similar to like a task, but it creates some sort of space for my mind to unlock itself and like get away from a to-do list mentality and kind of focus more so on like, okay, what is it that I need to actually prioritize for myself? Even if it's just like a doodle, the same notion of like just getting one word down, I feel like that just kind of unleashes an energy that you can roll with.
Absolutely. I mean, and also like piggybacking off of that is like finding other ways to express yourself, because sometimes like writing, you don't want to write for a day. You feel out of it. So like what you'll do is that like what I'll do is like I'll just like go in the back and just make a beat. I have a beat machine right here, and
you got an SP back there?
No, I have a MK3. I have an MK3 back there. I have MK3. So I just make a beat, and truly my beats are not good. But truly, it's about just doing something creative to get back to the stuff that you really want to do, which is like for me, filmmaking, and it's like writing.
For sure.
And question.
I think we gotta hop on this. There's like a priority question that came through, but it's, can you recommend some places that provide grant money for your projects?
What's up?
I mean, if y'all got some, I would love to know also. But SF Film is an amazing community. They do like the Rain-In grant. They have a lot of wonderful stuff going on. I know this is kind of like the viewers are from all over the place. If you live in New York State too, even NYFA, like the New York Fine Arts Associate, whatever that is. NYFA has like a load of grants. Honestly, I was going through the Sundance collab website too, because I was like, what's going on over here? And there's an amazing directory. They ain't paying me to say that or nothing. But it was actually, I like started screenshotting stuff, and I actually have like a long list of grant deadlines and applications that I'm trying to get into. So I'd say directories online are your best bet.
Also,
no
no
film
film
school. Yeah.
school, no film school publishes a grant site, a grant list. For me, Princess Grace is a great foundation for me, and also like they've been very much like I don't know how to put this. They've been like patient with me because I was affected during COVID from my shooting, and they held over the grant for another year. So I'm like very appreciative of them. This is before we finish. You wanna what before the last grant? What like people who backed you? Who do you like to thank in this before we get into the next?
Who I'd like to thank. I mean, I'm gonna be honest. I've kind of gone about it in more of a like hustle hard, pull stuff out of my own bank account kind of way. I've written grants for projects I've produced. Like the Shift short film grant is a really great one also. But as far as my personal work goes, it's been like work 3 jobs, save, and then like just spend it. I think it's also a difficult task for young filmmakers to want to spend money on themselves, but sometimes you just gotta get that down. And I'm, debt happens, and debt and credit is a thing. That's what I would say.
Yeah. I mean, we're in an age right now where it's incredibly cheap to create film. So like truly, if you can be financially savvy during this, because it's like film camera costs not that much money. Decent camera costs not that much money, and they give great quality. So just be careful with that. As for the people who I would like to,
I also know y'all got. Oh yeah, you got people to thank for.
No, you good. Go ahead.
Oh yeah, I was just saying, shoot it on like a potato. I know y'all got iPhones, that. It's valid.
I mean,
Amir
created some work. We got the work on a high-end camera, some like the great quality.
Yeah. But yeah, what were you gonna say? Who are you thanking?
I would like to thank like all the people who I'm here because like a lot of like smaller foundations, middle foundations, and like somewhat big foundations have supported me. Tide Film Festival, Austin Film Festival supported me. Princess Grace Foundation supported me, and I'm just here for like basically I'm here because of them, and it's like being able to create more work and just like not having to break the bank for my next project, and it's like having like people to look out for as soon as I shoot my next project. That's a thing that you'll get when you get like as a filmmaker, you're coming in, starting out, you start to build connections with like foundations, with festivals, and whenever you shoot, you can just reach out to them.
I don't know if we still got time for one more question, but what do you think? We think biggest influences? You want to talk about that?
So my influences are photographers, though.
That's hard. Yeah, I heard you were talking about Roy DeCarava.
Roy DeCarava. Yeah, my biggest influences is photographers. I have like film influences, but like they don't need to. So like the thing is that like when I got into film school, it's like watch The Godfather, watch these things. I'm like I watched all of them, and like they don't need my.
Yeah, I mean, study the oldies and the classicals, but look at paintings and photographs. Bruce Davidson for me is a huge one. Like
absolutely beautiful. He makes beautiful,
especially as a New Yorker.
Yeah.
Bro, hold up. Right over here on my table, right over here, I got a Kandinsky book, study of paintings. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it's like film is like a lot of things. A lot of people go to like, oh, we have to watch this film. If you can just like find references outside of film, your work will benefit from it because you're not reaching from the normal pickings of everyone else. It's good to have that foundation, but it's also like just good to go somewhere else, really.
I also want to suggest Khalil Joseph because he's a fire example of a filmmaker, but also installation artist.
Good.
You know what I'm saying? And his brother Noah Davis too. Like just being immersed in his video installations in his films is phenomenal. So you could really take away from that actual physical experience and put that on screen.
Absolutely.
But I think our time might be up, Adewale.
What's up? Yo, I'm gonna reach out to you outside of this, man. I want to actually meet you one-on-one. COVID safety wise, you know.
Yeah. All right, we're gonna toss this back to Liz, I think.
Yeah.
All right.
Ameer and Adewale, thank you so much for that amazing conversation, and congrats on your beautiful films. I think everyone here and beyond is really excited to follow your careers and just keep an eye on you as talents and voices in this world. So thank you for all you're doing.
Of course, appreciate the opportunity.
Yeah, and for you all, thank you for hanging with the technical challenges as well. I hope you'll stick with us. I know we're a little bit over, but I just have a couple of announcements that should be of special interest to this crowd who's here tonight. I will be quick. First of all, as I mentioned at the start, this is the third in a series of events featuring the amazingly talented filmmakers in the Topic series, of which, two of which you've met tonight. The series is called One Story Up. And all these fireside chats like tonight are available on the YouTube channel at Topic Stories. And on behalf of Topic, I think you'll see on your screen right now, we invite you to watch more of the episodes of One Story Up and explore all of Topic at go.topic.com/events3. Maybe we can put that in the chat. But if you go there, you can get a 50% off a 3-month subscription. So it's a great deal. And as far as Sundance Collab, the site I mentioned, the site that I work with, we have lots of great things coming up on the site, and a lot of these are free. So I think if you were interested in tonight's conversation, you'll love some of these as well. So this week on November 10th, we have a creator meetup event on Beyond Representation, Tools for Expanding Trans Awareness in Media. That has to do with all of our activities around Transgender Awareness Week. And on November 16th, we have a masterclass about funding your fiction film. So some of you asked about that earlier. So we have a whole masterclass on that on November 16th. And then on November 17th, we have an advisor studio with Janika and Jashika James. They are twins, on breaking in and sustaining a successful career in television. So there's a lot going on, and those are all free to attend. Also, in addition to the online events, we have several new courses on screenwriting, producing, directing, etc., starting in January, and the applications are currently being accepted for those. Also, make sure to check out our free self-paced course on mobile filmmaking, which I appreciated that Ameer mentioned. You can get out there and actually make real films with your phones. We have a whole free class on it. And the best way to find out about all of this and our membership options is by visiting collab.sundance.org and signing up for the weekly newsletter. So with all that said, on behalf of Sundance Collab and Topic, thank you again, Ameer and Adewale, and thanks to all of you for being here. Enjoy the rest of your evening, y'all. Bye.